What's more fun than learning how to fly a vintage Piper J3 Cub? Learning how to fly one off the water, of course. I'm Larry Anglisano reporting for Aviation Consumer magazine, here on location at Jack Brown's Seaplane base in Winter Haven, Florida. Now, like a lot of pilots, getting a Seaplane add-on rating has been on my bucket list of things to do, and that's exactly what I'm doing down here at Jack's. To tell us a little bit more about what you might expect and what the program is made of, here's Jack Brown's Ben Ship.
I've been an instructor here at Brown Seaplane coming up on 5 years now. Here at Jack Brown's, we specialize in training pilots from brand new sport pilots all the way through seasoned commercial pilots. We specialize in doing the single engine seaplane rating. We have 5 of these J3 Cubs with upgraded 100 horsepower engines and 1 Maul M7 235 that we do for people that want a more complex airplane. Now, in ground school, when you do show up the first day, we'll be covering more of the theories and concepts of seaplane flying. We're not just trying to make you a professional in the J3. We realize that most people that come do the course are going to go off and maybe never fly a seaplane again, but possibly fly another type of seaplane. And the things that you learn through our course is going to help you, prepare you in all types of seaplane flying anywhere you're at. After you get out of ground school, your ground instructor will take you out to the hangar. You'll do a walk around, and you'll learn how to pre-flight the J3 and some specific things to look for on seaplanes in general as far as the rigging and the floats are concerned. Once you split up with your instructor and you get the airplane that you're flying, you'll on the first flight, it'll be just under 2 hours. We'll start with some air work to get you comfortable in the airplane. We'll move on to some step taxi, different types of water work before we get into takeoffs and landings. Generally on the first flight, you'll cover idle taxi, step taxis, normal, rough, and maybe an introduction of glassy water landings.
Now, if that sounds overwhelming, it can be, especially when it's crammed into an intensive 2-day course. I showed up at Jack's with a handful of dual instruction and Piper Super Cub on floats. Well, this helped my initial transition to water flying in general. I felt the learning curve. Now, some of that is because, unlike the Super Cub, where you solo from the front seat, you solo a J3 from the back. It's a totally different sight picture than I was used to. The other challenge is memorizing the procedures for a variety of takeoff and landing maneuvers you'll learn, and you'll want to know them cold and have a thorough understanding of why you're doing them. A lot of time is spent on glassy water landings, a condition that can be a killer because the calm water kills your depth perception. You'll also learn how to select and use the LVR for last visual reference point as you make an approach to a glassy landing while holding the seaplane off without dropping it in prematurely. After a half dozen or so tries, I finally nailed it.
And we're usually done on the first day around 4 o'clock, no later typically. The second day, we generally start 7:30, and that gives us time to pre-flight the airplane, floats up by about 8 o'clock. If everything goes as planned and you're well studied, on track, typically the last flight isn't more than an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's mostly review from the first day because we'll have covered most everything the first day, with the exception of possible emergency landings, which we'll be covering more on the last flight. When the instructor finds you proficient for the check ride, you'll come back, you'll submit your IACRA paperwork and another debrief with your instructor. And if he thinks you're good to go and you're feeling confident, you'll be going on your check ride.
After about 5.5 hours of dual instruction, which is roughly the minimum course completion time for the $1,400 course, 2 days of weather and wind delays, that's something you better factor into your travel. And with my brain still trying to digest everything Ship taught me, I wasn't quite ready for any seaplane check ride. But after one more late night of book study and tossing and turning in my hotel bed, I brought my A game the following day, where it really only took one more flight to pull it all together. With a bit of 7 hours of duel, Ship signed me off to face a humble and Master Pilot Award recipient and Check Airman John Bossman Brown. You will recognize early on that Mr. Brown is the boss, and yeah, he and his dad, the late Jack Brown, have seen plenty of newbies like me show up at the welcoming doorstep. You better leave your ego and your smooth talk outside.
As far as our examiners here, Mr. Brown and his brother Chuck Brown are our two most common examiners that we use here, and they're no stranger to the seaplane check ride. I know that John Brown has done probably close to 20,000 seaplane check rides, so you can't BS this fella. So he knows what he's looking for, and he doesn't do anything to trick you up, but he gives a very fair, honest check ride.
Honest, fair, and predictable it was, and like any check ride, demonstrating a good command of the aircraft without rushing into anything is a good start. Now, Mr. Brown advised that I would be held to the standards set in the FAA's Examiner's Manual, while he would not offer any advice or instruction along the way, although I was instructed to turn off all my cameras. Yeah, I get that. Now, do something or allow a situation that makes him take over the controls, and the ride is going to be over. Now, while his hands hovered centimeters from those controls as I flew him around, I didn't allow that to happen. My reward was an in-depth and meaningful review of the questions that I blew during the oral exam portion, plus some sound advice to help avoid a litigious outcome when mixing it up with homeowners and unpredictable boaters out on the water. He also reminded me that I was an ambassador to the sport and now an official seaplane pilot.
What makes the J3 better than some other airplanes as far as training goes? Well, the nice thing about the J3, it's a simple airframe. There's not many systems that you have to learn. Many of our students that come through the course have never flown a stick airplane, and the stick and rudder skills are really, they kind of gone by the wayside these days with automation and fly-by-wire. So it's a lot of fun flying these, vintage, more or less, aircraft. And these airplanes, very few instruments in the panel. So really, you can really focus on looking outside, pitch attitudes, and really focus on the water and the angle of the float. They're a great airplane. Also, safety's the standard. You know, we realize that this is a course, more of a safe. It's a license to learn, as is any new certificate or rating. And that being said, we're looking for good, safe landing techniques and takeoff. And one of the biggest things is just good decision-making skills and not hurrying in and getting yourself into trouble. And you can read more about seaplane flying in the March 2016 issue of Aviation Consumer magazine. Reporting for Aviation Consumer, I'm Larry Anglisano. Thanks for watching.